Dr. Stewart Sutherland has worked for over a decade in Indigenous health with a particular focus on mental health and identity. He's a lecturer at the Australian National University here in Canberra, and he joins me now. Doctor, thank you very much for joining me. Can you explain your experience in Indigenous health?
I have what is commonly referred to as an eclectic career. I started off um, leaving school as a chef. So I'm formally trained in classical cooking, and through circumstances, I then moved into education, and then work on that. So I have a degree in education, and then by all accounts, I did fairly well in that industry and was asked to go into juvenile justice. And so then I did some psychology work. Um, and then I was asked to go in court diversional therapies for drug and alcohol. And so I did a master's of health science medicine and then I did some work in counselling. So I have a number of degrees and a wealth of experience within Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health, verging on now 20 years outside of cooking. So, but it's not the straightforward, I'm going to leave school and I'm going to go into a particular path, a particular discipline. And we find that a lot with our students coming in. And in fact, you can only do medicine at A.N.U by having.
What is the betrayed trauma theory that you have been investigating?
Betrayal trauma theory has been around for a little while. Freud developed it in the 90s, early 90s. And essentially what it is it's a theory that the infant, the child, puts up barriers when its primary caregiver doesn't give it the necessary resources to have a well-balanced mind. So we all know that you need water and food to be nurtured, but for an infant you need skin contact, you need so cuddles and a whole heap of what is commonly referred to as love, as well, to nurture and to ground that infant within itself. So without that, the infant feels betrayed, and then it will do a number of things. It'll either act out, and as it grows, it will keep that behaviour up, or it will isolate and go within itself, and therefore it will become removed from society. So I believe that, especially for our stolen generations or people removed from their families, that betrayal trauma is probably a better way to go as a diagnosis than post-traumatic stress disorder, which it gets modified all the time, but it leaves post-traumatic stress doesn't account for that betrayal of the child in the emotional states.
What are some of the biggest mental health challenges facing Indigenous Australians today?
At the moment, you have Black Lives Matter, which is really only amplifying how various countries, Australia, in the Australian context, how racism is actually institutionalized. So, whether it's our police force or our health system or our whatever, we're built on a system that actually discounted Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people from conception. So, our constitution didn't have Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people at the table when it was drafted. Our police force didn't. It wasn't until 1967 that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people were given the vote in this country under the referendum, and that referendum was a catalyst for a whole range of things. And so the biggest thing within Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health at the moment has been the biggest thing since, forever, which is actually having us at the table, having an Aboriginal voice at the table when the decisions are being made. That's my opinion on the biggest issue. I mean, there's plenty of health issues, we could pull out whether it's otitis media or whatever, a particular health issue, but in dealing it as a broad system, having us at the table. So it's really good to see that the government's listened to that. I mean, I'm not the only one saying that. That's been said from a range of people, whether it's, NACHO or Lowitja Institute or other academics like myself or wherever. We've been saying for a long time that needs to be representation. Government's listened, and under the Close the Gap measures that they announced last week or the week before, there's a body put together to represent Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people at the table. So I think while that's a historic problem, I think we are making amends to address it. Or at least that's the way we're heading.
Doctor, can you tell me why Indigenous Australians should study STEM subjects?
We need Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander scientists in every field. We don't have enough yet. We're not at parity across the board. So, whether it's maths or medicine or any of the health sciences or any of the industrial sciences, we need more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to represent us and the way forward. And particularly in the health fields, which is where I sit, we can't say to government, we want you to have us at the table if there's not enough of us at the table to be knowledgeable to represent ourselves. So we actually I encourage everyone to actually look at all of the health sciences, whether it's medicine or nursing or optometry or whatever, because we just need more representation. And the more people we have doing it, the more that our community will actually look to the health sciences and trust us, and therefore the better treatment we'll be able to supply to our community, and therefore the healthier we get, the more voice we have, and therefore we can elicit change. So without that, we're just going to be on this treadmill where we're always trying to play catch up.
Dr. Sutherland, thank you very much for your time.